today's episode. We're going to be talking about how to say no in business. I'm just a girl who can't say no. I'm completely, like, full disclosure, I am terrible at this. It's something I've had to really work on in my business and my life. And I know that some of us are, listening to this and thinking the same thing about themselves, because I have many of you for coaching calls and I listen to the things that you are putting on your plate, the amount of things that you're saying yes to. And I think, gosh, you're just as bad as me at saying no to things. So today we're going to go through some of the lessons that I've learned, some of the things that I've taken on, some of the things that work for me in order to be able to politely decline when it comes to these, many bright, shiny objects and opportunities that we get in our life and business, and be able to look after ourselves first and foremost, rather than looking after everyone else before ourselves. I do want to start by talking about serving others and about sacrifice and about a little bit of martyrdom, because I think as women especially, and no offense to all the dudes that are listening, but it does become evident to me that this is something that we are not really good at, and that women, because we are brought up to think that being selfless is the name of the game, and that is what success looks like. And the more that we can give and serve and you know do at the sacrifice of ourselves, the more, points we get. But actually, in reality, that ends up leading us to burnout. It ends up leading us to a lot of resentment that we don't want to carry on board. And it's really, really important to be thinking about the way in which we're setting up these entrepreneurial lives of ours, and how saying yes to everybody and every opportunity is actually not serving us terribly well. So I just wanted to start by that little bit of transparency and that little bit of observation. So, what are some of the reasons that we say yes to everything? Well, if you're like me, you like opportunities, and you like, doing brand new things and having brand new ideas and innovating in the business and trying something new. And so often when you're presented with an opportunity, you say yes without even thinking about what it actually means, because of the excitement and because of that. This is something, that I can really sink my teeth into. And I'm totally guilty of doing that. But I think it's important to have a think about what that means. And before we say yes to any of these new opportunities, to have a bit of a pause, to create space in between stimulus and response. And by doing that, we give ourselves the opportunity to think about what can go well and what can possibly not go so well, in order to set ourselves up for success. And giving ourselves that space in between stimulus and response, that pause, that take a breath, the kinds of things I want you to be thinking about during that time is, okay, from a strategic perspective, was this part of the plan? A lot of us do goal setting at the beginning of the year or the beginning of a quarter, and we think about, okay, how can we make sure this is, working to our advantage, and how do we make sure we know where we're going, and have all of our ducks in a row? Then when we get a opportunity that kind of just drops in like this, we go, yes, we must, absolutely do that. We mustn't always absolutely do that, and especially if it doesn't coincide with our strategic plan. So I want you to think about, okay, this is in that space, is this going to be something that's going to support the strategy, or is it going to be something that's going to distract from the strategy? And so that's the first part. We also say yes because we get excited about working with new people, and we get excited about opportunity, and we have this scarcity mindset that if we don't take on this opportunity, it might be the last, time that opportunity knocks on our door. And I fully believe that whatever is for us will come to us, and that it might not necessarily, if it doesn't feel right the first time, then another opportunity will present itself. And so I don't feel like we need to say yes to absolutely every opportunity with that scarcity mindset, thinking that this might be the last opportunity we ever have. I don't believe it will be the last opportunity we ever have. If an idea is good, if a collaboration is right, it will happen. Whether it happens now or whether it happens later, the timing will be divine, and that will exactly just be it. You don't need to put too much thought and feeling into it. So have a think about whether or not you are making decisions from that scarcity mindset, whether you're making decisions thinking, oh, I better do this now, otherwise it'll never happen again. And whether or not you can perhaps lean into a bit of that. Well, it is a great idea. It is something I'd really love to do, but looking forward, it isn't part of our strategy, or looking forward, it isn't something that I have time to execute to the level that I would like to execute it. So I'm going to pass this time around. And that can be hard because it can be disappointing for yourself and also for the people that are involved. And that we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. But I want you to really think about, okay, am I just saying yes because I'm afraid of never getting the chance to do it again? Or am I saying yes to this because the timing is right, because I have the freedom, the time, the space, the energy to be able to put into it? And, does it feel, and does it really feel like it's in alignment with where I'm at right now? I think they're important considerations. We also, make decisions and say yes because of the idea of what we should be doing in business. And we've done an episode before about, shoulding all over the place, and the shoulds in our business end up usually taking us away from our strategy and taking us away from our focus. We did an episode a month or so ago about, a 10x vision for your business and being able to go to 10x rather than just 2x, rather than just doubling your work and effort and income. And it's really hard to lean into that 10x mindset if you're saying yes to all of these distractions and these extra things that are coming up. I'm not saying say no to something that's a 10x opportunity, but it is really important to be able to distinguish what are these things that are just going to keep me busy and distracted, and what are these things that are actually going to move the business forward and could actually be really beneficial for the business and for your self growth and your business growth moving forward. So I think making decisions about things because we should be doing that, or we think we should be doing that, or our kind of business should be going there or working with that person, or presenting this kind of product, those shoulds can be pretty dangerous. And if they're not things that you've identified as part of your strategic vision, if you haven't identified that with your business coach, or in the mastermind program that you're in, or those mentors and people that you look up to in your business, if you haven't had strategic conversations, and if these, new opportunities aren't part of these strategic conversations, then you really do need to hold back and not just jump in, feet first into the water. I think that's super, super important. So how do we say no then? If these are all the reasons that we're saying yes, and we've decided, okay, I don't want to be that person that just says it yes immediately. I do want to create some space between stimulus and response. How do we actually get out of this situation without hurting people's feelings? Because I know that that's what some people think as well. And that's why we sometimes are really bad at saying no, because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. We don't want to upset people. We don't want to be seen to be not being supportive. And I get all of that. I absolutely understand that entire perspective. But I want us to get better at saying no. And the way we get better at doing it is we practice. And it's just like, becoming good at serving in tennis. You got to hit a couple of balls. You got to keep doing it, keep showing up, keep working it in order for it to become something that becomes second nature. And so creating that space is the first step. And if you need some kind of actual physical warning to yourself, like a trigger for yourself to do that, then absolutely find what that is for you. It could be taking 2 deep breaths. It could be, running through the alphabet from A to Z before you come in with your response. It could be even just having a sentence that you can say to people that allows you a little bit more time. Something like, that sounds like a great opportunity. Can I get back to you on Monday? Creating that space and practicing creating that space, practicing taking those 2 deep breaths, practicing running through the alphabet, practicing that sentence that you're going to give as the immediate response that's going to buy you a little bit more time is really, really important. And so don't feel like that has to, that you're just going to click your fingers after listening to this episode and suddenly be better at it. But I really want to encourage you to practice that so that it becomes second nature. And then once you've had some time, whether that is 2 breaths worth of time or all the way till Monday to have some time to think about whether this is the right strategic choice for you and your business, then I need you to have some sentences in your back pocket. I need you to have some tools in your tool belt to be able to pull out, to be able to make sure that you're going to be able to get through this without offending anybody or without feeling terribly guilty yourself. So some things that are easier to say are, that you're overscheduled, that you have another commitment. But I always find that it's really nice to be able to acknowledge the invitation first. So before you jump straight in with a, no, I'm busy, I think it's important to acknowledge and say, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for thinking of me. Or that looks like it's going to be a wonderful event. I wish you all the success. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to join you. Because no can be a complete sentence. You can also just say, oh, no, thank you. And that's okay too. But I always find that it's kind of nice to sandwich it. And for me, that looks like, and the tools that I have in my tool belt are, thank you so much for thinking of me. It sounds amazing. Unfortunately, and then I insert whatever it is that's happening there. Maybe I am overscheduled. Maybe it isn't part of my strategic vision. Maybe it's something that I am interested in, but because I'm focused on something else in the business right now, the timing isn't right. And then I finish, the other part of the sandwich by saying, I wish you all the best, and please think of me in the future. If it is something that I want them to think of me in the future for, not just, I don't want the excuse to have to say every single year, thank you, but no, thank you. But if it is something that I do think that could be helpful in the future, and I just can't swing it this week or this month or this year, then I do make sure that I say thank you for thinking of me, and please continue to think of me and continue to ask, because I would like to do it at some point. But unless you have those tools in your tool belt, unless you have those sentences kind of prepared and they're, there to be able to pull them out when you need them, it's really hard to be able to kind of think of that stuff on the fly. And that's the kind of stuff that can keep us awake at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I really want you to, if you're listening to this episode and you are somewhere where you can access a notepad and paper, I encourage you to choose your favorite out of the examples I just gave you, or one that really resonates with you, and write it down and just say it over 5 times fast, so that you kind of stick it in your brain so that it can be there for you to access when you need it next. And I really want you to practice that, giving yourself space between stimulus and response, to be able to think through the things we talked about at the start of the episode. Is this part of our strategy? Is this part of our vision? Does this fit in with all the other things that we have planned? And will I be okay if I say no to this? And will I be okay having to wait for the next opportunity to knock? Because most of the time, yes, you will be. The world will continue turning. But in the moment, it can feel like this is, the last possible chance ever. And so I really want you to really have faith, and to know that if it's meant for us, it will happen, and it will be for us. And to really lean into that. I also want you to know that there have been several situations in my business journey where I've said no, and I've been really disappointed because it's something I've wanted to do, but it hasn't been in alignment with my strategy or the opportunity. The people, perhaps the opportunity is great, but the people that are executing it aren't really aligned with my values. They don't, their brand isn't aligned with mine. And so whilst I've thought this is a great idea, I didn't really feel right about executing it with the people that were involved. And I did say no. Every single time this has happened, so the same kind of opportunity, but with people more aligned to me, or in timing that is more aligned to the business, has presented itself. And I don't say that to be all woo-woo and like, just wait, it'll happen in divine timing. But just wait, it'll happen in divine timing, because I've seen it happen over and over again. So I wanted to kind of just put that out there as well, knowing that if you create space and you think about and you journal about and you dream about and you kind of keep that thought alive, that when the timing is better suited, it'll happen, and it'll happen in a better way than you can even imagine. And I've seen it happen over and over again. So I just wanted to put that out there, especially if you're grappling with a difficult decision right now. Know that it's okay to say no, and that what is meant for you will find you. This has been a fun episode. I love talking about all these things. If you resonated with this, please reach out to me on Instagram at Raw Success. I really hope you're having a wonderful week. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast, and I'll talk to you next week.